G'day there guys, it's Connie here again from Marquee Industries and we're back with some more stories from Reddit. As always, if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit like and subscribe and also the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Alrighty, let's get right into it. Alrighty folks, we're on relationship advice. This one was written by user Pelican Dom and it's titled, "My best friend's fiance is jealous of me and wants me out of his life. He broke off the engagement. How can I help reassure her and calm him down?" Hey all, so here's the backstory. I've been best friends with this guy that we'll call Troy, 23, since we were in 8th grade. All throughout high school, we hung out together with our other mutual best friend, Adam. All three of us hung out quite a bit and did nearly everything together. In high school, we had our fair share of losses and trauma. There was a point where both Adam and Troy stayed at my house for a couple of months prior to college due to home problems, so I think we got closer than usual friends because we learned to lean on each other so much. Fast forward to college and all three of us went to different colleges, but we would all FaceTime each other every other day. Leaving our families and each other was rough for us, and we'd developed a sort of codependency on each other in high school, and our continuing communication every day didn't help the situation, but we were coping. Come sophomore year, Troy started dating his now fiancée, Emily. They get on well and are a great couple. I'm very happy for them. From the beginning, Troy was very clear that I was just a friend and that he tells me and Adam everything. She was all right with it as far as I knew at the time, so it wasn't uncommon for us to hear about his relationship problems and fights they were having. When Adam and I went to visit him and met her for the first time, she was very kind to us, albeit a little awkward, but that's understandable. Whenever we would visit him, he would kind of ignore her and hang out with us exclusively, and we pointed that out to him, but he always dismissed it as he saw her every day and us maybe once every 6 months. I let it slide because it wasn't my fight to fight. I think it was our visits and his neglect of her that started her bitterness towards me. Years went by though, and now they're engaged. Adam was chosen as the best man, and I meant to be a groomsman in his wedding. A few months ago, our best friend Adam committed suicide unexpectedly. Troy and I were, and still are, devastated. It came out of nowhere, and we blame ourselves, even though we know it's not our fault. I live alone in an apartment and expressed to Troy that I was distressed and lonely, especially due to the COVID lockdown. Troy dropped everything to come live with me for a few weeks as we dealt with our grief and could talk to each other about it. We're both in therapy right now for grief. A week ago, Troy got a call from Emily that she wants him back at their apartment now because she doesn't trust him with me. She went off that he was cheating on her with me, and that he should be choosing her over me. He got upset with her and basically told her he was grieving, and she didn't understand what he was going through, but that I did. It came down to a point where Emily gave him an ultimatum and said that Troy could either choose me or her. He said it was unfair of her to make him choose between two important people in his life, and that if she can't understand that he needs me, then maybe we weren't meant to be together. She was hurt by that statement and told him she needed to cool off and think, so they hung up. Today, Emily texted me asking if I had feelings for him, and I said no. She then called me and asked if I loved him, and I told her yes, but as a brother. I'd do anything for Troy. She told me if I did love him, I would take a step back and let her have him. I told her that this is a conversation she needs to have with him, and that I'm tired of being in the middle of it. She got angry with me and hung up, and I immediately told Troy about my conversation with her. He called her and broke up with her. I think it was hasty and emotional, and I'm trying to talk him out of it, but I'm not sure what else I can do. Can you all give me some advice? I feel like this is my fault for asking him to come stay with me. Yeah, to be honest, I don't blame Emily for being a little bit concerned about their relationship here. It seems like they're way too reliant on one another, and that's just not something you want in a partner you're about to get married to. Let's go to the comments. I don't think there's anything you can do here. If I'm Emily, I'm seeing my fiancé, my future husband, in a codependent relationship with another woman, whom he tells everything about our relationship, who regularly ignores and abandons me to hang out with her when she visits, and who literally moved in with her during his grief. How can she be his wife when he turns to you exclusively, to the point of moving in with you when he needs support? This is not a man who is ready to marry. I'm not saying you did anything wrong. I'm just saying he clearly doesn't want her in the wife role. If I was her, I would have skipped the ultimatum and just dumped him. It's obvious she can never come close to the role you play in his life. I think a lot of the responses cover this quite well, but I want to chip in as well. You were wrong for asking him to stay with you. This is a man who has a fiance. If anything, he could have asked to stay with him and his girlfriend for a little bit, so that she is present there as well and does not feel left out. If I'm going to be honest, if I were Emily, I would freaking hate you. I really would, and not for the reasons of being controlling, jealous, or wanting to isolate Troy, but because I would want to be there for him, and having him disappear to his best female friend's house for weeks would drive me nuts. Being ignored in my own home, in front of my boyfriend's friends, would hurt really bad. If he wanted to spend time with you guys without her, y'all should have went out somewhere. This is a horrible situation. He is being mean and does not sound ready for marriage, as another poster has stated. She deserves better, and you, my friend, need to know where your boundaries are. It does not matter how you love him. He is a taken man who is abandoning, ignoring, and being inconsiderate of his girlfriend because of you. Emily cannot be blamed here. Asking him to stay with you is just so wrong. Sadly, you can now go blue in the face trying to reassure her, but the damage is done, and if I were you, I would back off and let them try and work things out. You should not even be proud to call your friendship with Troy codependent. Take some time out for yourself and just let Troy be. It might hurt, but all three of you need it. All the best. You might be tired of being in the middle of it, but you've done nothing to take yourself out of the middle. He is staying at your home. You asked him to come. It sounds like you and Troy are beyond codependent, and while you at least partially recognize it, he is either completely ignorant or purposely ignoring it. You don't have to be having an affair to be interfering with someone's relationship. You say he dropped everything. He is, in fact, picking you over her. I don't know what poor Emily is going to do, but I do know this issue will come up over and over again throughout your lives with every new relationship until you two get better boundaries. Well, Troy is going to have to find a very special woman to accept your relationship. I don't blame Emily one bit. You can't fix this. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Opie gives an edit and then an update. Hey all, it's been a few hours since I posted this and I didn't expect to get all these responses. Thank you all for your input. It's really helped me get some perspective. I've been told that my relationship with both Troy and Adam was detrimental to the rest of the relationships, and I was taking steps to fix that, but with Adam's death and the COVID stress, all the lessons I've been learning kind of flew out the window. That's no excuse for how I'd been behaving. Troy is a dear friend, and I've been sabotaging his relationships with other people unknowingly. That's not fair to him or to the people in his life. I've considered Emily a friend too since I've met her, but I haven't been a good friend to her either. Since I posted this, Troy broke down about his breakup and regrets breaking up with her. He texted her and they agreed to try and talk things out in a couple of days when they both have had time to consider everything. I showed Troy this thread and he got to hear what all of you were saying too, so hopefully that helps. He and I agreed we need some space apart, so he'll stay at my apartment and I'm staying on the couch of a co-worker. Again, thank you all for your input, for those who supported me and those who called Troy and me out on our behaviour. Hopefully, with our continued therapy and eventual boundaries, we can maintain a healthy friendship as well as have healthy relationships with other people. Now Opie updates. Hey all, I just thought I'd give an update on what happened since I made my first post on here. A few hours after Troy broke up with Emily, he broke down in tears and was miserable. He regretted breaking up with her and texted her. They both agreed to talk to each other after a few days when they had a chance to cool off and think things through. I also texted Emily after I got some advice from a DM and apologized for everything and how I may have hurt her. She replied with thanks, and that was it, but that was alright. I needed to apologize to her. That evening, Troy and I were able to go over the comments from the original post and talk with each other. He and I had agreed that we needed some space from each other, so that night I called up a co-worker and asked if I could crash on their couch for a few days. They agreed, so Troy stayed at my apartment and I went to my co-worker's. We didn't talk for 5 days to give each other some space. That was really hard for me because I kept overthinking that Troy hated me and that he didn't want me in his life anymore. I was convinced that I was going to lose him, and that made me miserable because we just lost Adam. But that was just anxiety speaking. He called me after a few days, saying that he'd spoken with Emily and that they were back together. I was so happy for them and relieved. I wanted to ask for details, but I figured I'd stuck my nose into their relationship too much as is, so I didn't ask, and Troy didn't say anything to me. He told me that I should come back to the house though, and I asked if Emily was alright with that. He said yes, so I moved back into my apartment. When I got back to my apartment, I asked him if he was going back to his apartment with Emily, but he said no due to COVID, so he's going to stay with me for the next few weeks, minimum. Having had several days apart with no communication was something new for us, so when we were together again, we just talked about everything we'd been thinking about. We talked about how much we missed Adam, what we could have done to help him, and the guilt we were both holding on to. It also came to the surface that Troy rushed to my side when I asked him to because he was afraid that I was suicidal and he didn't want to lose me either. I felt really guilty about that. I scared Troy, and that was never my intention. Then we just started talking about all the memories we had with Adam, and that was really uplifting, even though we were crying the whole time. I also told him how I was nervous during our separation time, and he said he felt the same way. We laughed at that and agreed that we need to work on our independence from each other more. The next day, I got a call from Emily and answered it. She wanted to apologize for assuming I was with Troy and talking about the text I sent her. She and I had an emotional talk for a couple of hours, but eventually we saw where the other was coming from. She often thought that Adam and I didn't like her, but that was only because he and I hadn't properly included her whenever we were with Troy. However, at the end of the talk, we agreed that we should talk to each other more, since Troy is significant in each of our lives. It was good to talk with her and clarify everything. She is a super sweet and considerate woman, and I think she's perfect for Troy. I'd love to be her friend too. Troy and I are going to therapy, and we're working on our codependence and our grief counselling in our separate therapy sessions. I've also started looking into a codependence group, and I think I'll start attending those meetings, but since there's just one in town, Troy isn't going to join because we don't want to go to the same one. Emily also said that Troy and she are going to start couples therapy, so when he moves back with her, that is what they'll be doing. So, that's the update. Emily and Troy are back together. Troy will be with me for the next few weeks, and Emily and I started building our friendship. Hopefully, from here on out, there'll be more communication between those two and better boundaries between me and Troy. Troy and I are willing to put in the effort, and Emily is supportive of us, so I'm optimistic. I'm sure Adam is happy that we're moving forward together. If you all have any more advice for me or any words of encouragement, I would love to hear them. Thank you all for your help with the initial post, though. I don't think this situation would be getting better if you all hadn't helped Troy and me open our eyes, so thank you. One comment says, "Am I the only one who thinks the issue itself isn't resolved whatsoever? I feel like you guys all talked about it without actually doing anything to fix it. The fact that he's going to continue living with you for another few weeks at least pretty much negates everything." Another comment adds, "Nothing changed. I cannot believe this situation. Imagine going to therapy for codependency then still living together. Emily needs to get the hell out and let these two have each other." Another comment, "I feel so bad that she took him back. This isn't going to change. They're still up to the same nonsense, and as soon as they feel a breakthrough on the therapy, they'll probably stop going, and then they're all back to square one. This isn't an issue that gets solved with short-term therapy. Stuff like this can take years to unravel, especially with how long they've known each other. It's just going to be him choosing OP again and again until Emily gets sick of it or manages to get him to cut her off." Alrighty folks, and now for a final update. Wow, I did not expect the amount of hatred that this update post would receive. I thought the situation resolved itself positively. Y'all want Troy out of my apartment right away though. So I told him that he should head home as soon as possible to be with Emily, and he admitted that he did not want to go back to Florida because of the increase of the coronavirus cases, and that he liked the relatively relaxed state of things here in my state. I told him that he was being paranoid and that he would be alright if he quarantined once he got back. So not the most sympathetic thing I could have told him. But since he works from home anyway, he can quarantine without any issues. He called Emily, and they bought a plane ticket for him to head back in 3 days, so he's leaving. Emily is excited to have him back, and I'm glad that they can be back together again. If anything else changes, or if there's anything else you all want to know, just comment. I'll update this post. Alrighty folks, and that's it from that story. Yeah, you can't help but feel like it was all kind of going back in the same direction towards the end there, but I'm glad she eventually got him out of their living arrangement, at least sooner rather than later. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Anyway, we're going to leave that story there and move on to another one. Okay, this next one was written by a throwaway account. It was posted on Am I the A-Hole, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting people to wear white at my wedding? So I'm, 24 female, having a hard time seeing where I went wrong, but me and my husband-to-be, 26, both struggle with NPD, or Narcissistic Personality Disorder, so I figured an outside opinion might be helpful, since neither of us tends to understand when we're wrong right away. I'm getting married, yay, in December, to the absolute love of my life, and we both want it to be the most spectacular wedding the world has ever seen, because we both really love attention. I never used to feel comfortable admitting that, but ever since I've been with him, I've been able to really accept that, and it's made my life so much more fun. We decided that instead of having me in a white dress like all the other white dresses, and him in the same tuxedo as every man in attendance, it would look really spectacular if we'd both dressed head to toe in gold. What we want is for all our guests to wear either black, white, or grey, and for us to be the only ones wearing colour. I figured that not only would I look like a princess, but I'd also be dancing with a prince instead of just some guy, and he's so into the idea that he remembers it as being his. We just love that idea of a sea of monochrome, and then us in the middle of it all. The only thing is, my sister, 26, has been absolutely furious at us ever since the clothing requirements came out. First, she said that this was proof that I never changed, and I was being controlling again. Basically, that asking guests to wear a specific colour was insane. Then she started making digs about my hair and how I was just doing this to show off, and asked if I planned to have her dye her hair too. I did not. We're both blonde, but mine is a bit more yellow blonde, and my husband is dyeing his hair for the wedding. I admitted to that, but also pointed out that it's my wedding and it's normal. Then she accused me of trying to upstage everyone else's wedding dress, basically implying that I was trying to get everyone to show up in wedding dresses so I could compete with them and make myself look even better by comparison. This was not ever the plan. When I mentioned what she said to my husband-to-be, his eyes kind of lit up in this really cute way, and he said we should encourage people to actually wear their own wedding clothes, but we decided it would probably be actually terrible of us. We decided to let our families wear copper if they wanted, so they would stand out as a nice accent to gold, and then my sister would also get to stand out. I was totally willing to pay, and said as much. That was when she called me a spoiled child, and said she wasn't like me and wasn't in this for herself, and wanted all the guests to be able to wear normal wedding clothes, and that nobody in their right mind would be comfortable wearing white to a wedding. I kind of find it a bit funny that the sister says she doesn't make it all about herself, but then she's doing that exact thing in this scenario. I think it's pretty normal at weddings for the bride and groom to give out clothing themes, right? This is just another one of those. I don't see how it's so unreasonable. If anything, a monochrome theme makes it easier to find an outfit, at least for a guy. Anyway, let's go to the comments. It sounds like a really pretty wedding. I don't think upstaging everyone who has ever had a wedding is the goal here, but I also think every person who has a wedding wants it to be special and memorable in their own way. Kinda weird your sister doesn't feel that way. Opie says, she's really against events where I get attention. I get it, considering how I was before I knew I had NPD and how to handle it, but I guess I thought a wedding was an appropriate time to want attention, you know? Another comment says, have you tried to make things right with her since your diagnosis? It can be a bit traumatizing to have any kind of relationship, familial or otherwise, with someone who has NPD. Opie says, I have. We went to therapy together when I was 18, and since then, our relationship has been 100% on her terms. I really do want to make things right, and have been trying to for a long time. I wonder if your sister is just kicking back because you're not having a traditional wedding and she's jealous of the attention you'll receive. She had a really traditional wedding last year, and I wasn't actually invited to that, so I don't know a lot of details, but I know she wasn't happy with how it went. I do think that my dress code is pretty simple, especially since, not to be macabre, but everyone has funeral clothes, right? Not the a-hole, it's your wedding and this is your special day. If anyone has a problem with that, they shouldn't come. Opie says, I do want her there though, like if I'm being unreasonable here, I'd rather know than not. Can I ask why you'd been excluded from her wedding? Opie says, ever since I was 16, she hasn't wanted me at any events focused on her. She asked me to stay home for her high school graduation, all her birthdays, her college graduation, and I couldn't meet her child until a week after either. We sometimes celebrate alone, but when we were growing up, I would do something to grab attention pretty often, at basically any event I was invited to. I've done a lot of growing up since then and apologized a bunch of times, but she still doesn't trust me. May I ask what you mean by stealing the spotlight? Was it on purpose, or was it that you naturally draw attention? It wasn't like it was malicious, but it wasn't exactly not on purpose either. I just absolutely love when everyone is watching me, and I'm pretty good at a lot of things. On my sister's 17th birthday, I gifted her a song I wrote. I got the idea from a TV show, and everyone spent the rest of the party saying how good I was, and that was one of the big things she brought up when she first banned me from her events. I honestly just loved the attention, and it didn't occur to me that what I was doing took something away from her, because I figured everyone loved watching me, so I was just making her parties better, and I thought she also loved watching me. I get it now, and I get that what I did was really wrong, but I didn't understand at the time. How in the world could you see nothing wrong with taking all the attention? Well, I honestly didn't think I was doing anything bad. A lot of people liked watching me do things from when I was very young, and my dad always said that when I performed, it made people happy. I always figured that, when I performed, I was making a party or an event better for everyone, and I thought my sister also liked to watch me, and I loved it a lot. Everything seemed to reinforce that this was a good thing, and I never thought about it as taking something away from my sister. Sounds like you have a good amount of insight into your self-centeredness and are trying to work on it. Opie says, thank you. I'm doing my best to grow and be better than I used to be. I know I'll never not be a narcissist, but I'm trying to be careful not to hurt the people around me or take attention away from other people's accomplishments. Another downvoted comment says, not the a-hole. Are you sure you have NPD and aren't just the family scapegoat? Opie says, I definitely have NPD. I just also have years of therapy and hard work under my belt, and a really supportive and wonderful partner who has allowed me to accept some things about myself and work on making them less of a detriment and more of a strength. Opie comments further on boundaries and therapy. I'm in therapy. It's been a little tricky to have it be as consistent as I would like, but for now, I'm in every other week. I know I'll always be a narcissist, no matter what I do, and I want to still be able to have good relationships where I don't hurt or take things away from anyone. I've said something very similar to what you've quoted a few times. Her boundaries are pretty simple. We only really meet up at either family gatherings or one-on-one in a private space. If we meet one-on-one, I'm not allowed to talk about myself, my life, or anything I'm accomplishing or working on unless she specifically asks. At family events she'll be at, I need to send her what I'll be wearing ahead of time and have it be non-attention seeking, and I can't perform, sing, dance, etc., or talk about anything I'm working on unless I ask her permission first, and if she says no, I can't ask again. If she tells me she needs to vent, then I can't react or get upset about anything she says to me or tell anyone else about it. That's pretty much everything. It can be tricky at times, but I know that's mostly my disorder, and it's worth it to have her in my life. Sorry to comment on this post 3 times, but it's really alarming me. She has to okay your outfits even if it's an event that is not focused on her. You are not allowed to talk about yourself whatsoever without permission. I hope someone with more experience with NPD can tell me if there is a healthy rationale behind this, because I think you love your sister so much and are not able to clearly see that she is controlling you and is frankly really mean to you. Opie replies, I'm only not allowed to talk about myself at all when it's just us, and then I'm not supposed to ask for permission. When we're at family gatherings, I can talk about myself generally, like my relationships or music I like or anything. I just can't talk about goals or projects I'm working on or accomplishments of any kind without checking, because it's a form of attention seeking. Like most recently, I had to check if she was okay with me talking about learning how to make pizza from scratch from my husband-to-be, but she said it was fine as long as I talked about the learning process and didn't offer to teach anyone anything or say how great I was at it or anything. The outfits thing can be frustrating, especially since she almost always shoots down 3 or 4 outfits before accepting something, and it's usually way too hot, but it makes her feel way more comfortable, so it's not the biggest deal ever. And on attention, it's more like, whenever everyone is paying attention to me, I just feel so happy, and it's like the best feeling in the world. And sometimes when nobody pays attention, I feel just horrible. It's like I feel like I only exist if someone is watching. When I'm alone, I barely even have any feelings. It's just all dull and meaningless. But yeah, it did accumulate in me stealing the spotlight when I shouldn't have. I thought at that time that what I was doing was good because it felt right, and a lot of people really do love watching me perform. It didn't occur to me that I was taking something away from my sister. We did go to therapy when I was 18. which is when she put a lot of her boundaries in place. One comment says, think about it from your sister's perspective. If 90% of the time you always had the attention, that meant she didn't, and you're totally fine with her feeling horrible because you felt good. So everything, in your mind, is always about you and your desire to feel good. It doesn't matter to you if no one else exists, because only your existence matters. Opie says, I've thought a lot about that in the past 8 years. Before that, I honestly thought that she didn't really like attention, especially not like I did. Main girls in books didn't like attention like I did, same on TV. Most of my friends got things like stage fright or nerves talking to strangers that I never did. In my head, this was just how I was, and it seemed less than common. Out of curiosity, what is your parents' position after all this time? Also, the clothing thing is ridiculous, and you should probably set a boundary on not needing permission. Opie says, my dad hates it, and always said it's ridiculous and tries to get me to perform or talk about myself, or take off the coats or sweatshirts she makes me wear. And sometimes takes me inside so we can just hang out with people without my mum and sister and I can relax. My mum is very strict though, and says that the boundaries are important, and that I abused my sister when we were growing up by stealing attention, so her and her trauma is the most important thing. She made it clear that if I ever refuse, I won't be allowed back at any family event she or my sister are attending. I know my mum and dad fight about it, so I try not to bring it up, because I know they love each other, and they were going to get divorced for a bit when the rules first started when I was 16. And Opie reiterates, she definitely doesn't dictate my life. I actually only see family maybe once a month, twice sometimes, and the rest of the time I get to be more myself. I still try to be more respectful, and not awful, but I actually love fashion and my hair and performing. My husband-to-be and I go to karaoke every week at least once, and I'm in a local musical right now. Yeah, I gotta say, this is definitely the most self-aware narcissist I've ever encountered on Reddit here. So that being said, all these boundaries that have been set in place for, probably half a decade now seem pretty extreme. You can't help but feel like at some point the sister needs to trust OP, and trust that she's bettered herself. Anyway, let's go to the update about the wedding, 1.5 years later. My husband and I recently celebrated our first anniversary, and I was thinking about all the dress code drama when I remembered this account and thought it would be fun to give you a little 1-year update. After I made my original post, my husband and I decided to contact my sister and parents and have a sit-down discussion about the situation. He offered to take everyone out to eat, and we had this really long discussion about my sister and my relationship. My sister said she made a promise to herself never to let that happen again, and that if I wanted her in my life, I needed to be a normal person. My husband told her that if she was going to keep humiliating me for something I did as a child, then she wasn't a normal person either. It became a bit chaotic. My dad took our side and said my sister's taking things too far. My mum took my sister's side and said that since I have NPD, I'm not capable of real change, and if they ever give in at all, they'll be hurting my sister. It ended with my sister calling my father an enabler and threatening to cut him off. It wasn't a great dinner overall. What surprised me is my sister's husband. She called me the next day at his recommendation and we talked for a long time. She told me that she doesn't want to feel like a side character in my show, and that was how it was for all our childhood. I told her that I feel like I'm not allowed to have meaningful relationships with any of our family since she restricts what I say and do and wear around them. I pointed out that she controls my clothes for like every family event, and this is my wedding, and she admitted that was a good point. Eventually, she agreed to attend the wedding in a really cute black and white checkerboard dress and leave if it became too much. The wedding itself was incredible. It was the second best day of my life so far, and my sister said she was genuinely happy for me. I felt like a princess in a fairy tale the whole day, and my husband was the handsomest prince in the universe. The whole thing was under the stars. It was perfect. I could talk about it forever, but character limits. As a wedding gift, my sister told me that she was going to start letting me wear what I liked at family gatherings, and talk about my accomplishments, and talk about myself when it's just me and her a little. And she has, and it's been great. The only better gift I got that night was my husband himself. This past year has been the best of my life, and I genuinely feel so much better about life and family these days. I'm a girl mum now, and I'm so glad my daughter gets to know her aunt and cousins too. I'm even allowed to babysit for my sister sometimes. Oh, that's great to hear. Let's read some more comments. I'm glad your wedding turned out lovely and your relationship with your family has improved. Well done. Your hard work being a better sister and daughter has started to pay off. Opie says, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been really incredible. My mum even came to see a musical I was in this year, which is the first time she's done that since I was 16. Someone asks, how did you come to realise and value relationships? I've always valued relationships. I want to have people in my life, and I do love my family. I just didn't understand that me getting attention took away from other people. I really love attention, but I figured that was just a me thing, since other people get stuff like stage fright, or nerves talking to strangers or crushes, and a lot of people are shy or don't want to be the center of attention. It didn't occur to me that the stuff I did was bad. One comment adds, I hope you're not discouraged by some of these comments. It sounds like you're on the right track to repairing your family and should keep it up. Given that your husband is also a narcissist, you should both work with therapists to make sure your narcissism doesn't negatively impact your child. There's a pretty big risk there, to be frank, especially if you're spending so much effort moderating your behavior in other areas of life. Opie says, already under advisement. We're doing everything we can to stay aware of what kids of narcissists can experience so we can avoid it. We both love her so much and would never hurt her for the world. What were you wearing that your sister had to be in charge of your outfits? I like really long flowy dresses, sort of a cottagecore princess vibe with a lot of accessories and sparkly jewelry and stuff like that, flowers in my hair and that kind of thing. It does show off my body though, and my sister says that's attention seeking and caused her to have an unhealthy relationship with food for a long time. Where did you get that NPD diagnosis from, and have you ever gotten a second opinion? Because this whole situation smells funny. I was professionally diagnosed. My current therapist agrees with that diagnosis. I do have my own therapist, and I really truly am a narcissist. Genuinely, if you met me, you'd understand. Actually, my sister's therapist helped with a lot of the boundaries. You understand that a diagnosis can be reached in error, yeah? A desire to recover from NPD is almost perfectly diagnostic for not actually having it. Other people are not like me. They have desires and needs that are different than my own. Is something you wouldn't find possible to understand if you're genuinely a narcissist. She replies, I don't think that's true. I mean, first off, a hallmark of the disorder is thinking you're not like other people, not that everyone is like you. Either you think you're way better, or way worse, or both. Someone says, you're handling this well. Thank you, I'm trying my best. My husband really helps. It's like so amazing to have someone who just gets it, you know? I can walk up to him, sit in his lap and be like, I want to sing you a whole musical right now, and he'll sit and listen and applaud whatever I want. And if he walks up to me, it's like, I'm going to read you this essay about how everyone but me is stupid. I will listen and be delighted and in full agreement because he is the smartest person. It makes everything easier because we get to be ourselves around each other, and it's the best thing ever. And we're both completely obsessed with our baby because she is the best baby to ever live. Do you ever worry you'll get upset with your child like you do with your friends? Like you said a friend made you sit in the back, and you started thinking she was awful and you hated her until you realized you were overreacting. Do you worry how you'll treat your daughter when she's old enough to talk back or tell you she hates you? She won't mean it, all teens say it. Will you be able to love her when she's her own person and not just a reflection of you? Opie replies, that's one of my deepest fears, honestly. I've got plans in place for how I'm supposed to react to everything, but realistically, things don't go according to plan. I love her so much, and I never want to hurt her. But if I ever do, I'll spend every moment trying to make it right, and I'll let her know from the start that Mummy isn't always right about everything, and sometimes Mummy makes mistakes, but she's always loved, no matter what. And one last thought. I'll never not be a narcissist, but I'm trying my best to be a good person. Now, I'm just going to keep reading because this is interesting, but most of the comments on the update are people arguing about whether or not she's a narcissist and what boundaries she should and shouldn't have. It's very interesting to hear Opie's perspectives, so let's read some of them now. Okay, you want to hear why I'm a diagnosed narcissist? Let's go. 1. If I don't get attention, am alone too long, or cannot express everything in my mind to someone, doesn't really matter who, I can't feel anything, I just go numb. There's no happiness, no anger, no anything. Just this vat of numbness that is unbearably dull and cannot be escaped until I have all eyes on me. 2. I genuinely believe I'm the best at everything I do on an emotional level. I think I'm a musical genius, and there's a bit to back that up, but I also think I'm a dancer on the level of at least any backup at a concert, that my drawings are good enough to be in a museum, that my writing is deep and ingenious, that I'm prettier than 99% of models even with the baby weight, that I can act well enough to win an Oscar if I was ever randomly put in a big budget movie for no reason, and I have nothing backing any of that up, except maybe the writing being slightly above average. My husband has told me that he agrees with the model thing, and I have to put that in this reply. 3. The last time I failed, full-on failed, it was at chemistry, and I temporarily became a full-on anti-vaxxer because I decided chemistry was made up and stupid, and nobody could ever really understand it, and they were all just getting lucky and also evil. In reality, I'm not good at science. I still kind of resent scientists. I also decided that my teacher must be madly in love with me and punishing me for being so beautiful because he didn't want his wife to divorce him. That is how my mind works when I'm not good at a thing. 4. I recently sat my husband down, told him that I'd rewritten a whole musical to be about another character and how it was so much better than the original. I one-woman showed both the original and then mine in front of him without even my piano and demanded he tell me in detail all the ways mine was better than the original. He's never seen the original or read the book it was based on first. 5. I will talk and talk and talk and talk. Look at this post. Look how many hours I've spent talking about myself. In detail, that's probably not the smartest, because I'm absolutely loving the attention. I've had 4-hour conversations in which the other person said maybe 10 sentences max. My husband wants to inform me that it's more like 10 words. 6. My friend had me sit in the back seat instead of shotgun while she took me and 2 other girls to a very expensive concert for her birthday, and I decided she must secretly hate me and that she was boring and mean anyway, and by the time we reached the show, I was sure I'd go no contact after, only to realize the shotgun friend was the only one not sitting next to her in the show, and she was trying to be fair, and immediately remembering that actually she's really smart and kind of fun, and I love her, and I told her all of this to her face the next day, and she said she could tell because she saw me glaring at her in the rearview mirror. And 7. I throw a ball on my birthday, a literal ball. We save up all year, and I get a fancy dress and rent a ballroom. I make my friends call me princess and pretend to be my ladies in waiting. The princess thing is actually pretty consistent in my life. I have tea parties at least once a month too. I'm not a poor little meow meow with a misdiagnosis. I'm a person who has more than one personality trait, and honestly I don't like that so many people want to say it's wrong, because my husband has the same diagnosis, and so do a lot of my close friends, and they're the people I'm able to be myself around best, and who most understand me. It hurts to hear them disparaged even when you're trying to uplift me in the process. And how the husband relationship works. Well, my husband and I just see each other as an extension of ourselves, and we love each other. I have a princess complex, he has a hero complex. We require the other to fulfill that. For our friends, there's definitely some competition there, but there's also a lot of mutual enjoyment. One of my friends is a pretty famous influencer, and she's great to have around because she gets us VIP treatment everywhere. She took the pictures for my wedding. We do fashion together, and I get a steady stream of promotion gifts from her because we have very different colouring, and what looks good on me almost always looks not as good on her, and vice versa, I suppose. Another of my NPD friends is an alto, and I'm a soprano, and so we're usually going for different roles in musicals. Basically, as long as we each have a defined niche, we can agree our group in total is the best, and each of us is the best at our role. I'm the best blonde soprano musician in the group, and I don't mind if other people are the best at their own thing, because I don't do social media or sing alto or whatever else. One comment says, fascinating look into the mind of a real narcissist. Kind of funny that her hubby and her close friends are also all narcissists. Wonder how that works out. Seems like it could work well if they're all self-aware enough to take turns being the center of attention. Like, okay, everyone clap for me and tell me I'm awesome. They all do it, and then it's someone else's turn. I thought this one was super interesting. We usually have posts from the non-narcissist side, so in a way this was refreshing. Just overall a different kind of post than we usually see. Honestly, I thought it was fascinating too. In fact, I found her comments describing herself, her NPD, her therapy, growth and self-reflection over time, and dynamic with her husband more interesting than the drama with her sister, lol. Me, for literally no reason. Am I a narcissist? Me, after reading the list on why she is a narcissist. No, just a normal person with anxiety. Yeah, hopefully that list clears the air with some of you guys if you were worried about that. Or maybe it just confirms your diagnosis, who knows. Either way, folks, we're going to leave that there. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Anyway, that's it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.